Welcome to Challenge the Road. Now, we're going out to meet Dean Macey at Buell Water, so we're going to head off now, go and see him, get ready for today's show. So what we're going to do, we're going to drive out, go to Buell, meet Dean, talk to him a bit about this car. He loves this car, he's never seen a Lancia rally car, so it's going to be a great day for him to see this. We're then going to head over to VVS Lamborghini, have a chat with them just about cars in general. Then Dean's going to go out in a special car that I'm going to choose for him later on at VVS. So we're looking forward to the day ahead. Now, for me, this was a 40th birthday present a while ago now, and I just want to get out, show you what it's like to drive on the road. It's a little bit cold at the moment, but we'll get going, okay? So let's head off in this Lancia. So we've got a sequential gearbox, and to warm up we need to use the clutch, but once it gets warmer we'll be able to just use the clutch on the way down but not on the way up. So what's it like to drive a rally car on the road? Well, pretty fantastic, to tell the truth. It's just so easy to drive. Steering's a bit like a fly. The suspension's amazing. It's a real challenge to get through this gearbox and use it well, and it takes time. So, you know, if you were looking at getting one, that's your choice, but yeah, it is a real one-off special thing. And it's also nice to be able to take it on the road and let people see what it's like. You know, it's like taking a Matchbox car and just putting it on the road. The amount of thumbs up that you get is just great. You know, I just love it. So for today, obviously we're heading over to Buell. We're going to meet Dean. Now, we've got a few little problems this morning. Now, one, I had a shave. Now, everyone knows this lockdown, all the guys, we've had the best excuse in the world to get some sort of caveman beard, so that's what I did have, and now I've probably ruined it for Dan, because all the other footage, obviously I've got a beard and now shaving, so sorry Dan, but that's just how it is. Second one, car broke down last night. We had to get some rally guys over to just fix the leads, get it working again. Still not 100%, but I've done some footage earlier and that'll be good enough for now. The other problem, and this is a big problem, it's a 6'6" problem. Now Dean, I was looking at his Instagram last night, and I think he thinks he's going to drive this. Now, I can't remember mentioning that, but we're going to have to get out of that today. I've brought another car along that he can drive, but if he mentions it, we're going to have to work our way around that, because he's not going to go in there. Well, he's not going to fit. Two, this is like my little baby, right? Really. So we'll work on that with him. So Dean Macey, it's the Olympic Athlete Decathlete, now mega fisherman, carp fishing, so actually brilliant every type of fishing, so from coarse fishing all the way through. So hold on, we just got a car here, oh he's backing up. So now we're just heading up, and to say Dean, fantastic fisherman, decathlete, so we'll go and see him. So you see that noise, that's just the exhaust on the heat shield underneath, because it's got a big shield under there to protect. So one thing in a rally car, left-hand drive, which makes it tricky at junction. You have to be. So, getting up through the gearbox, so you don't have to use the clutch. See how much smoother that is now. Now it's getting warm. And the thing is with this car, you don't have to go particularly quick, you just enjoy it, just go out, drive it. So other things on this car, it's a Lancia Delta Evo 1, which is then by our Bath. They make this into cyclists out. World Rally Car spec. So the roll cage and that is all fully built into the chassis, and you'll see that later. It goes right the way through to the engine. This is running about 300 horsepower. So it's a really nice speed actually for the road. This with this gearbox, the top speed's probably 90 miles an hour, so it's really nice on the road, and you know, you can just really enjoy it. So one of the other things of today is I wanted to show you around VVS, which I've been using VVS for a few years now, and I wanted to go over there and just look at their selection of Lamborghinis and all the other cars they've got there as well. They've got a lot of big selection of Ferraris now, and also just talk through some of the cars that are becoming very, very affordable now. And we had this massive rise in prices, and it priced a lot of people, including myself, out of a lot of cars, but now it's starting to come back, and there's some nice opportunities out there which are really good value. So the other thing on this car is the ride is just like so solid. I can't tell you, you probably can't, you're not going to get the feel of that on a video, but it's so solid, it's lovely. Gearbox is great, you can rattle through, but it did take me a long time. I think it took me 5 years to start perfecting it. I mean, not using a clutch, very, very difficult when you're used to using a clutch and you don't use it on the way up. So that's been a bit of a challenge for me, but I've just really enjoyed that. The other thing with a manual car is it's always changing, so you're always able to get something from changing gear. Whereas if it was a paddle shift, it's just and it's done, isn't it? So steering, well, it's a bit like driving a fly. I mean, it's not power assisted, it's just and you're gone. So it's just fantastic. And this deep dish, sort of Italian style driving position, really. You've got a deep dish wheel, you feel right up close, your knees are up here. And that's another good thing, actually. Dean won't be able to get in there because his legs are too long. So that's another, need to remember that. So I'd like to thank Dan as well, who's been working with me. And we only started this channel 2 weeks ago today. So we just come up with an idea. I rung Dan, I said, Dan, can you do some filming? He said yes. I said, let's just go and drive these cars. Let's see what it's about. Then we thought, well, let's try and get someone who loves cars to come on the show, pick a location. So we're just really happy to be showing you all these cars. And the plan is to do one show a month, an hour long, and just go through all the bits on the cars, have a bit of fun, go to some really nice locations. So that's what this channel is all about. So we're going to head over to Buell now, and we'll see you there.
Got our celebrity here, Dean Macey. Over Dean.
Morning.
What do you think about this?
I didn't sleep much last night. No, I didn't. And I've probably looked at many more pictures of these that are healthy.
So is it like PlayStation real now?
I've driven one of these many a times on the PlayStation years ago, and I was amazing. I can't wait. Honestly, today is like a childhood dream.
So this car was a 1991 Evo, and this is a Group A stroke Group N spec. So you've got all these arches are out further because they wanted that for when they're on, you know, the tarmac stages. They're out in the gravel stages, and that's how they won so many rallies, because they had so much travel on the suspension. I think, Dean, you said on your Instagram you were looking at driving this car at some point, and we have to.
I didn't drive from Essex all the way into Kent, which is like 60 miles.
But we got a big problem with the seat. I don't think it's going to. You're too tall. How tall?
Yeah, but I've also done a lot of research, right? And it is possible to shave some inches off of shin bones. I'm sure you can, and I would happily do that to get into this bad boy. Honestly, I just think it's an amazing piece of machinery. I don't think, like, the Martini kit is just absolutely iconic within the rally industry, and I think the Lancia, obviously what it did in the WRC, 6 years on the bounce. I've been doing my research. Yeah. I have been doing my research. I know little bits and bobs. I just think every single time people see a motor like this, they just can't help but turn their heads. I've got a little family WhatsApp group, right? Okay. And every time I go and do my track days, I send my uncle, my dad and a few people, I send them pictures of the cars I'm driving and stuff, and they go, yeah, whatever. I sent them a picture of this morning, right? And it's my uncle's 70th birthday today, right. All right? So Uncle Graham, happy birthday. So he's got every excuse in the book to be proper moody. Yeah. And he was like, oh, that's a bit of proper me. That is.
I think that's seeing these iconic colours of the Martini and the shape, and it's so small, isn't it, in real life? First time you've seen one. Yeah. So it's just so small and chunky. And on the road, it's just, for me, it's just been fantastic to drive. Well, we were saying, weren't we?
It's like one of those cars that's completely uncompromising. It's like, right, when they designed it, they were like, right, it needs an exhaust, comes out the back, stick it anywhere, it doesn't matter. Needs some lights, all right, put them on. It needs some flared arches. Like, none of the bits are absolutely stunning, but they all work together
Yeah.
to make, like, it's a bit agricultural. Is that the
Yeah.
right word? You know, it's
Yeah,
just,
I see, yeah.
when you look at it, you think
These
it's
arches
aggressive.
have just got wider and wider. This with the bonnet, they just made, the engine didn't fit, so we just make it higher to fit it. It was no compromise, just put it on and go.
And the noise.
Yeah.
And
And
the noise.
rallying of that era, they just get in and go.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
know.
when I've done a few rally days and stuff like that, and it's the closest I've ever been to driving a bobsled.
Right,
and
okay,
that
yeah,
is
obviously, yeah.
that is bar none the most awesome experience I've ever done. I always said if I won the lottery, I'd buy myself a 2-man bobsleigh and I'd employ myself a brakeman, because
Right,
no
okay.
one in their right mind would ever come down willingly with me. I'd have to pay them top dollar. Do you know what I mean?
And I think you said about adrenaline there, and I think when I drive it and go out, I just come back and I'm absolutely buzzing.
Yeah.
Because there's just so much noise. I think it's the vibration from the car and the noise and the whole theatre of it. You just like, ah.
Well, look, I've seen some pretty cool cars in my time. I've driven some pretty cool cars in my time. But when this turned up today, my knees went a bit funny.
Well, I think it's just, I bought it for my 40th birthday present, and I wanted a car that was from
You're
my
40?
era.
Are you 40?
That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
That's a long time ago. But I just love the shape. I love driving the car. It was really interesting because obviously I bought the car, but never saw it. So to buy a Group A stroke Group N car and
Yeah.
just take it on the road for the first time, and no one's taken it on the road, was a bit daunting. But over time, you have to learn the gearbox, learn the car, and it's, hopefully it becomes your friend, because it's very different to a road car.
Do you know what? When I left school, a little bit of history here. When I left school, I had 2 ambitions. One, to try and make it to a decent level in sport. I didn't know what event or sport it was going to be. I just knew sport was going to be my thing. And the other one was to drive a 1.6 or own a 1.6 injection gear Orion with the old pepper pots, which I did, by the way. It was one of my first ever cars. So once I'd ticked that box, I never really had any ambitions. But that particular car, my one, it stalled every time you was at the lights. You had to double shift and do this, that and the other to keep it running. And every single time I had a mate that worked at Ford, he said, I'll send it back, we'll sort it out and it will be lovely. And I was like, no, because if anyone tried to nick my car, they wouldn't be able to get it around the corner because it would stall on them. They wouldn't know how to drive my 1.6 injection gear Orion. And I can imagine driving something like this is exactly the same. You've got to learn how to drive them properly,
And it's
otherwise
taken me, I reckon, 5 years to get used to the gearbox.
Is it really?
Yeah, and change up and just take time to learn. It's when you're in a manual and you're using the clutch all the time, then you don't use it. So it's taken a bit of time. So I've got a little story for you, I heard, from a friend of yours, a Mr. Backley.
Yeah.
And there was an interview at an event you won, and you were talking about the prize money, which you didn't actually know there was prize money, I think.
You're talking about
And-
Seville 99.
Is it? Right.
Yeah,
okay.
I actually come second.
And- okay.
I didn't win many events, Richard. That's why when you said I won it, I was thinking,
Yeah.
well, that narrows
you
it down
won
to one gold.
Commonwealth gold.
I got a gold. Yeah, I got a gold.
yeah.
Yeah, it's true actually, because
Yeah.
I won the silver medal. That was my first ever major senior championships, and I went in ranked 11th. Didn't really know how good a shape I was in. Came out of a silver medal. The very next day, Steve and I were on the BBC, but I went on as a guest before him. And I think it was Sally or Roger said to me, they went, "What are you going to do with the prize money?" I went, "Hey, prize money? I thought it was an amateur sport." And I literally said that. And they went, "Yeah, you've won $20,000, which I don't know what at the time was about 18,500 quid. I was like, oh my God. And instantly just popped out of my head. I was like, I'm going to buy a Subaru Impreza Turbo RV5.
And you had a deposit down.
I did that.
Yeah.
I had a refundable deposit,
Right,
which I
okay.
actually took back because Steve collared me as I walked out and he went, "Don't be stupid." And I went, "What?" And he went, "Don't blow your first pay packet on a car." I said, "But you've got an Impreza." So he said, "Yeah, but I've also got an house."
Yeah.
And bless him, it was the best financial advice I've ever been given, but I've never owned an Impreza since. So he blew me dream. But he also saved me $20,000.
And on this show later, we have got a Subaru WRC 99.
I know.
And we've got one of the UK ones, a 99 as well, coming on. And them cars, I mean, I had all that range of cars. They were great. The 99 UK, RB5, P1, 22B.
All right.
And
All
they
right,
were
rub it
mega. No, they were mega cars, though, to drive. And
They were.
that Subaru had an era, didn't it? And then it fell off.
Yeah.
They had them cars that you could go out, drive very easily, very comfortably. They weren't too quick, actually. They were just a lovely speed on the road.
You say that though, coming from the 1.6 injection gear Orion, which is what I had at the time, and then I took the first Impreza WRX STI out for a test drive, and the turbo lag on them was amazing because it did nothing till about 4,000 revs, and then it ripped your neck off. It was the first time I got in a car and realised how fast cars could possibly go, and I remember the guy that was taking me out, he just said, go on, put your foot down, you know, see what she's got. And I just looked in the rear view mirror, and my mate Brad Evans was sitting in the back, and I was like, oh my God, I've got to have one of these. That was it. Steve ruined it for me though, thanks Steve.
Yeah, you got a house, haven't you? You still got that?
Yeah, I still got the house. Yeah, I've got the house, but it ain't the same.
So one of the things with these cars is about the future, because obviously the future is going to be electric. Probably we won't drive ourselves, and I read a report to say that youngsters now, a lot of them, say 50%, don't expect to drive in the future. They expect it to be self-driven or picked up,
Such
Uber.
a sad time, innit?
And that's, you know, to have this ability, I think one of my favourite things is just being able to have a drive on your own, your own music. Go out for a drive, you know, and you relax.
Say that. I got, when I can't remember how old I was, I must have been 18 years old, and a guy called Seredi Kulakundes sponsored me with a 2.2 litre rear wheel drive Nissan Laurel, right? Now this was the car I had before the injection gear Orion. So the Orion was the first car I ever bought, paid £7,000 for it or something like that, right? But I remember the first time I ever took this Nissan Laurel out, and I went round the roundabout just under Pitsea flyover, and it was wet, and I did a 360 straight away. Right. And it was unbelievable. Like kids in 20 years time, they won't experience that complete out of controlness, you know what I mean? And back then, me and my cousin used to put a tenner in on a Sunday into the car and just go and completely get lost around Epping Forest and all the country roads. And that's how driving used to be years ago, and it ain't like that no more, is it? Because everywhere you go, you're sitting in traffic. But when you get in a vehicle like this, I can imagine it takes you right back to your shoulders. Yeah,
well, it's just such a one-off thing. You can just take this out on a Sunday drive for say 20 minutes, and you come back and you're just buzzing. And you don't have to go. I know, you don't have to go extremely quick. I mean, this is geared only to sort of 95 miles an hour, so you're up through the gears, dum 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 dum, and you go out and you can just enjoy it, and you get that buzz. You're still not driving it, but we'll do that another time. But, you know, I'd love to get you that experience. I know I'm going to hire Brands Hatch, and we're going to take it out, and we're going to get someone down to try and get this seat back because your legs are too long.
I'll find a mechanic. If there's a mechanic out there, I'll find you.
So Dean, Lancia Delta engine, so it's a 2 litre turbo. This one's a Group N spec, so the rest of the car's Group A, so you've got all the suspension from that era. And then you've got a Group N spec engine, which is much easier for me on the road. So this is running about 300 horsepower. And you see here how they've had to make this higher here with the engine. And then obviously they make this bonnet bigger and bigger to accommodate all that and all the ducts. And we've got all the air filters here, and you see all the piping, all this here. So it's open fuel lines. That's why it smells so much in the car, as these are coming all the way, so it's pumping the fuel.
It's a great smell though, isn't it?
I know.
Do you know what I mean? If they could bottle it up as an aftershave, that would be like Lynx petrol or whatever.
So this is these struts come right here, and I said about the roll cage, because this is all built in. A normal roll cage would be in the car here, but this goes right through to here. And that gives you, so when I'm driving it, you just got that suspension, which is awesome on the road.
Tough drive though, I bet, isn't it?
No, easy.
Is it?
To drive, yeah. And the steering is fantastic.
Mega firm?
Yeah, but compliant.
Right.
Just, yeah, you wouldn't think it's a hard ride.
Really?
No, it's actually.
See, in my mind, I'm thinking you get out of that and you are completely fatigued. Like, you're buzzing, like you said earlier on, but at the same time, you're like, right, let's just jump back into something a little bit more modern.
Yeah, it does feel like that, but then you want that rush back again.
Of course.
So after a few days, you're like, right, I've got to get back in. And I think because it's not hugely quick, it's a nice speed through the gears, and because you're using the gearbox all the time, you feel like you're probably going quicker than you are. And obviously the modern cars are so fast now. I mean, this isn't fast compared to some of the supercars that are out there now. Obviously the Aston later, that's a quicker car,
but it's how it does it. That's the most important. Like I said, 80 mile an hour in a bobsleigh seemed so much quicker than 170 in whatever car I was driving at the time.
When I go around corners, I'm pressed into the seat. And the steering is just, because it's a Group A rack, it's just the feel. You just feel everything. Modern cars now, you haven't got that. You've got so much assistance to it.
Well, I'll have to take your word for it, won't I?
Yeah, we will for now.
Until I find a surgeon that can work on my legs. You've at least got to let me sit in it. Because I'll tell you what, if I can get in it, let's have a deal. If I can get in it and I feel like I can drive it, you've got to let me have a go. But if you're honest and you reckon I'm just too big, then I'll take it.
Okay.
Yeah?
You can get in, and
all right.
Then you can, next time you can go in.
I should have stretched, shouldn't I?
Come on then.
Come on then, all right. I don't know how I'm going to get these legs in that little gap, but I am going to do my very best. I wish I was put tracksuit bottoms on as well. Come on, son. Come on, Dino. Yep, I can instantly tell this is definitely not happening. Oh, curse these lanky legs of mine.
You're never going to be able to.
No, I think for road traffic safety, I think it's probably best that I don't have a go, mate. I genuinely don't. You know, actually, it pains me to say it, but my hips are slightly too wide for the seats as well. Yeah, I can't get my left bum cheek in. Oh, Richard.
Well, we have got another car for you. A very, very British car for you.
Have you?
Being a top British athlete. So we're going to take you over there now and I'll show you what you're actually going to drive.
Well, if it weren't for social distancing, mate, I'd ask you to help me out. Give me a minute. Give me a minute.
Right, come on. What do you think then?
Oh, do you want me to be honest? Well, obviously. Right, okay, I'll be honest. I'm not an Aston Martin fan.
You're not?
No, because I've always, don't get me wrong, I think they're beautiful looking motors, but I've always looked at certainly the modern day Aston Martins and thought with the cars that they're competing against, they look a little soft.
So you're sort of saying
McLarens, Porsches, you know, Ferrari, I just, Lambos, I would, if you had them all lined up and you said pick one to take home, the Aston would be the last. Right. Because it looks a bit tame. But this one,
it's a little bit different,
this one does not look tame. And being an Essex boy, you shove a dirty great spoiler and a grille and some carbon fibre on the side of an amazing motor like that, and I am all over it. That is superb, Richard.
Yeah,
that is,
so this is the race car body shell with all the road car components. So you've got all these wide arches are built out. It's actually wider than the race car. Huge alloys, centre locks, all carbon fibre, apart from the doors, all carbon fibre car. 150 in the world.
Yeah, and how many in the UK?
40. And not many manuals.
It's not the scarcity that impresses me. It's the aggressiveness. If you're going to spend that money on a motor, it needs to turn heads. And genuinely, I don't think Aston Martins all that often turn heads, but that thing is a bad boy. That is amazing. If I don't fit in that, I'm going to have some serious complex issues. I am 800'6". Really?
Come on, yeah.
Oh.
Do you fit in though? I'll put that seat right back.
Yes, I do. Oh, and actually, do you know what? As much as I'm quite low, there's quite a bit of room.
Is it?
Yeah. For someone of...
So manual gearbox, so you'll put your foot down on the clutch, put that key in and then...
I think a little bit of weed just come out. Sorry.
Oh. This is one of the loudest road cars.
Oh, mate.
It's like 110 decibels. It's loud.
Oh, that's awesome. That is amazing.
So we'll head over to VVS now then, because you're in.
Yeah, via the M1, M25, M40.
You're going to follow us?
Yeah, I'll follow you. Mate.
We'll see you there.
Absolutely. This thing is crazy. The noise is superb. And don't get me wrong, it's not that I've got anything against Aston Martins, but in the category that they are, I feel like if I was to go and buy a car, I want something a bit more loud and proud and a little bit less sophisticated. I don't want the James Bond vehicle, I want the Bond villain. That's what I want. And even though this might not be the Bond villain, this is like James Bond has just met Jason Bourne and some superhero that's got some bad intentions. This is a bad car. This is awesome. I'm so connected to the road. The steering is so precise. The noise is out of this world. Why they've put a stereo in here, I don't know, because you're never going to listen to it. Ever. can't help but give it a little rev when you're waiting for the traffic. And I can see Richard, he hasn't taken his eyes off me, look. The only downside about this car is that when you're driving it, you just can't see the outside. Oh! 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 Oh my word! I see what he means by let it rev. I mean, when you're going slow, the burbles and the growling's spectacular. You know you've got something underneath you that's just wanting to get out. But Jesus Christ, it's nowhere near the fastest car I've ever driven, but it sounds it. That is spectacular. I remember a little while ago when Richard sent me a YouTube clip of a guy reviewing one of these cars, and he said, I'm thinking of getting one of these, what do you think? And on the YouTube clip, the guy turned around and said, if I could buy one car for myself that would last the rest of my life, it'd be this one. And then he put his foot down and you heard just the acoustics of this thing. I remember thinking that is the second that he's not thinking about buying one of these. He is definitely gonna buy one of these. There is no two ways about it. And I've literally, in the space of a mile, and putting my foot down once in this animal, gone from walking past Aston Martins and appreciating them, don't get me wrong, I appreciate them, they're beautiful looking motors, but this is possibly, and particularly because of the manual gearbox, you know, it rewards you with a decent gear change. It rewards you when you drop down a gear and you just get that bellow in the back. This has gone very quickly up to my top 3 cars I've ever driven. It has. You're so connected to the road, the steering's beautiful, the gear changes are awesome. Firm, not heavy, just firm, like you know where you are. It makes you feel a privileged man. I've been in it 10 minutes, I'm still shaking. It's a thing of beauty on the outside. It's pretty special on the inside too. Holy moly. 0 to 60 in 4.4 doesn't do it justice. You do it because it sounds so epic. No need to give me the thumbs up, boys. More than thumbs up. It just comes alive. As soon as you hit 4,000 revs, it turns into a different animal. I'm trying to stay cool. I'm trying not to waffle like a child that's just been given the greatest Christmas present ever, but you can't stay cool. I don't care who you are, what you've got, what you've done in the past. This absolutely makes you feel like a child. I don't want to be anywhere else in the world right now. Listen to this. I can't get enough of it. Oh, when today's over, I'm just going to ask Richard if I can fill it up and just drive it around into the evening as the sun goes down. I love it. I love the carbon. I love the big wing. I love the skirts. I love the little bit of red down the side. I love how it's just changed, in my mind, quite a dated shaped car into an absolute Batmobile. I know I didn't get to drive the Lancia today, but this, for now at least, has more than made up for it. You can drive it smooth, you can drive it sensible, it doesn't have to burst everybody's eardrums all the time. You know, you can sneak it through a tiny little village at 3 o'clock in the morning when the roads are empty, and you know, to a degree they wouldn't know you're there. But when you plant your right foot, the whole world must be able to hear you. I can't see how my wife can't hear me when I put my foot down. And she's in a completely different county. It is so loud. I know in shows to come he's got some very special cars to be driven, but I genuinely don't feel like I'm ever going to be missing out after driven this. It just don't get much better. The thing is, I am one of those guys that I can't justify spending the money on a car that makes me feel like this because of what I do for a living. I've just got fishing gear and training gear in the back of the van all the time. It's a utility vehicle. I go to track days to make me feel like this. And because of those track days, I've drove some spectacular motors. I really have. But this, and I'll say it until I'm blue in the face, and you'll be bored of me saying it as well, but this is a piece of work. It is absolutely amazing. Just listen to it. Just let it rev. It drives amazing, sticks to the floor, sounds awesome, looks awesome, it's comfortable. I mean, it's a firm ride, yeah, of course it is. But I could drive it easily from here to Scotland. Rich, I could easily do it. And you just gotta I know he said don't swear, he did, but fuck me, that is special. It's such a cool vehicle, it's such a cool motor. It's amazing inside, it feels sporty. You look in the rear view mirrors, you've just got them amazing, massive arches sat there, just like glaring at you. It's so aggressive, but it feels so safe. It's like the ultimate motor. And I feel weird saying that, bearing in mind 5 minutes ago I was like not an Aston Martin fan. but it is what it is. I've always fancied brunettes until I married a blonde. You know? You're right until you're wrong. I don't know what to say. And I was totally wrong. You've got the quality. You've got that. And I was using this term against the cars earlier on, but you've still got that sophistication within the motor. But now it's every bit the kid's toy that you want it to be, on top of everything else it already was. This has got the package. It is the package. It's the full package. I still can't work out how to use the handbrake properly. But a few more 100 miles under my belt and I'm sure I'll sort that out. Well, my darling, if this is the end of the road, it's been an absolute pleasure. No, I don't like it. Nah, not sold on it, Richard. I think I might need a few more miles in under the belt, mate.
So we've seen the Lancia Delta. Dean's been out in the Aston. Now it's time to go back to Italy and go to the Lamborghini. So Dean, this is a Lamborghini Gallardo Performante. And I know you're a big fan of Lamborghini, aren't you?
I am.
So,
I just think if you're going to go supercar, I just think they do everything it says on the tin. They're loud, they're proud, they're aggressive, and they're non-compromise. It's just, for me, it's the poster. That's what it is. You know, it's the poster supercar, the one that we all had up on our wall when we were kids. It's changed from the Aventador to the Murcielago to the Aventador and all that over the years, but the Lambo's just got it. It's got it going.
And the styling's just fantastic, the way they do the mirrors, this sleek line here. I know this makes it difficult to see out, but that is the line and the feel of this car.
Well, if you're 8 foot tall, you look straight over the top.
Yeah, you do. For you do, I suppose. But this is a great car, and I think these, we spoke about before about value for money, and I think these are a great car for the money. Probably 100 to 110,000.
It's a lot of motor for that money.
A lot of car.
Yeah. And
one thing is it's fantastic to drive. So the steering you had in that Aston is very, very similar to in here.
Yeah.
And also you've got that V10, 550 horsepower and four-wheel drive. So you've got that security. And
it enables people with my skill set behind the wheel, and I like to think I'm all right, better than the Av, but not, you know, I'm far from, you know what I'm doing sort of thing. But it enables someone with my skill set to get the most out of a car.
Yeah, and enjoy it and not feel terrified.
Yeah.
Which is one of the other things. When you've got a rear-wheel drive car and a lot of power, it can be very daunting for you. So the thing with these was the seats. They always said they're quite hard and difficult, but actually I've been out in them and I think they're actually fine. Yeah. And it's the same with my Murcielago SV. The seats seem really good. What do you think of the bronze wheels?
Mate, I just think it's got it going on, isn't it? It's like a supermodel with like some athletics lycra on. It's just absolutely superb. I love it. But then to be fair, I love everything that is in this room.
So if you had a comparison, so a new 911 now, it's probably the same value as this.
Yeah.
So you'd have to look, if you wanted just a weekend car and you wanted to go out, then probably I'd be swaying this way to these older Lamborghinis, not many made.
You say it like it's a difficult decision. I mean, I love Porsches. I think they're a brilliant all-round motor. But compare like for like, I don't think they stand up to a Lamborghini. I don't think they stand up to something like this. I don't think they'll ever give you what this type of motor could.
Oh no, not for the drive. I mean, it feels very much like a go-kart when you drive this car, which is great. And in the bends, it feels lovely. And like you say, also it's a convertible with a Porsche. You're looking at a coupe. But yeah, it's just a mega piece of kit, this. And also, it's a lovely size.
Yes.
too big.
Well, exactly.
The Aventador, if we look
Yeah, I was saying the Murcielagos and the Aventador, you look at yourself and you think to yourself, I don't know how I'm going to get them around country roads.
I mean, the Aventador's here. I mean, I've driven the Aventador, and it is a big car, and it is a bit worrying going out. And then the SV, I think it gets a little bit bigger again. Then the SVJ is even bigger again. I think that's a foot longer than the Murcielago.
It's bigger than my van.
So, You've got a lot of fishing.
I would still struggle to get my rods in the back of it, but I would compromise.
So you like Ferraris as well, don't you? I know they've got a nice selection of. So if we go over
Yeah.
599, you said that's one of your favourites, really.
I've always had something about cars with long noses and short bums.
Right,
And yeah, so I just think if I was to buy a Ferrari, I mean, the Testarossa is a beautiful motor, don't get me wrong, it's classic, it's sleek, it's archetypal, but this is where I'm pinning my flag, mate.
It's a 599 with a GTO body.
I thought it was a GTO. I did actually think, I did.
It's got GTO badging.
Yeah.
Really is sort of a third of the price, really. So you're sort of 160,000. And that is a mega piece of, and also you could go, you've got your boot, you've got lovely seats, and you've got lots of room.
I'm a big guy. I like quite big cars, right? I fit in this no problem, and today I've been, quite self-conscious about not getting in the Lancia. But do you know the other thing as well? Remember I said earlier on about, Aston Martin's just a little bit safe, a little bit sophisticated, and just a standard Aston Martin Vantage in this showroom would look out of place. It wouldn't look special enough in my mind. But the GT8, you could reverse and park in here, and it's right in. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So you said you've got Testarossa here. We've got a 512, which is a lovely touring Ferrari again, and then one part of the video I said, is there any cars that would be sort of investment, which is very hard at the moment with the current climate, but I think the Challenge Stradale would be one. That's a 5,000 mile car, £200,000. There's only 109 in the UK. That's a special car, but it's very difficult at the moment to see anything holding in the money the way it is, because there is a lot of cars in this sort of
investment and money aside, then in this showroom, pick one.
That black one.
Didn't even hesitate, did he? I'm like that. Oh, we're doing. Oh,
I think it would be one of these Performante cars. I've never driven one.
Yeah.
I've never driven one, and then when I did, I thought I've missed out. I thought I should have been getting those cars, because it's just the steering feel. Like we said, you've driven that GT8, you can feel that steering.
Yeah.
The Aventador tends to.
It's heavy, it's not hard, you're connected to the road, you feel it goes exactly where you want it to, you feel like you're in just the most super go-kart ever, it sticks, it just wants to be driven as well.
And with VVS being here and being local to me, when I come down, the first car they had in here was that Murcielago SV, the orange one, and I've never seen one, and I probably never have bought one unless places like VVS and that were here.
Yeah.
Because it's a very limited edition car. They look after me very well here. If I get any problems, they come and help, which is great. And that's why with this type of car, you need to buy it from an independent who's going to help you.
Yeah.
Because obviously you can get a warranty on these, but they've got the software here to manage them. And the sound of this V10, I tell you now,
it's got to go some. It's got to go some to beat the GT8, mate. I mean, I'm in love.
So let's have a look at Murcielago. So let's go around. So the Murcielago is a stunning shape again, and it is a nice size. It still feels quite big on the road.
Yeah.
But it's obviously quite a bit smaller than the Aventador. This is the orange that I had on my one. These are probably 170 to 200,000 now.
I think it's almost a sin not to get a Lamborghini in something garish. I love it, don't get me wrong, the dark greys and the blacks, they're all beautiful. I mean, you can't get an ugly one, can you? But if I was to get one,
you'd have it in that yellow.
I'd have the yellow or the orange or the green, I would have something where you could clearly see and hear me coming from miles off.
Well, they've got some SVs up there. This is probably your type of colour. So these two SVs here, the yellow and the grey one. I really like the grey one.
That's a weekend car, mate.
Yeah.
That's a weekend car,
They're And again, this is the big spoiled one, Super Veloce. When we bring that orange one out on the channel, you're going to see, because this has got one of the greatest engines ever made.
Is it?
Yeah. It's 670 horsepower, V12, and it makes a noise like almost nothing else, apart from that GT8, which you can. So.
I had a horrible grin on my face. I looked in the mirror and I saw this cheesy. I couldn't stop seeing my two front teeth. I couldn't get the grin out of my face.
So Diablo.
Yeah, classic.
Great looking car. This is a VT edition. I
love the manual. I love the stainless manual gearbox. The clunkiness of it. It's just superb.
I'd like one in that sort of violet purple, the SE30.
The poster colour. Yeah.
That's the one. That's the one. Then they've got an Aston here, VVS. This is the one from James Bond. Lovely classic shape. And this is what you were saying earlier about the Astons being more of that classic flow shape, aren't they? Whereas the GT8's a lot more aggressive and it's got those wings and the fins on the side.
Still an absolutely beautiful vehicle. You know, can't knock that. But yeah, what they've done with that GT8, we've just sporting it up a little bit.
Yeah.
It just works for me. You know, it's the one that you look forward to taking out and driving. You drive this every single day.
Yeah.
Comfortable, beautiful. But yeah, the GT8 is the one that I take out on a Saturday evening, for sure.
An SV Roadster here, yellow. This is what you were saying. This is the sort of colour. So the SV only 500 made, and these have come down a bit in value now. Still quite a bit of money, but it's a very big car, very wide, fantastic engine again.
It's a lot of motor, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, people talk about the money and how much they cost, but it is so much car. When you stand here next to a vehicle of this magnitude, yeah, absolutely. You stand here and you think, how can I justify spending that amount of thousands of pounds on cars? But when you stand here next to one, you get it.
You sort of see the
Of course you do. Yeah, you do.
Especially this colour, I like that grey. So we've got a McLaren here, 600 LT Spider.
It looks familiar, that one.
Yeah, might be mine. Evo car of the year.
I was devastated. I was devastated when you chopped this in.
Well, I still haven't sold it.
Oh, have you not?
So I might be coming back. Well, we don't know.
How much you want for it? Mates rates. But I was devastated when you picked the Aston over this, because again, the McLaren, very similar to the Lambo, it's uncompromising. You know, it drives past you on the road and you just think Batmobile straight away.
I really like it.
I do.
Say to Dan, look, if it doesn't sell, then fine. I'll have it back. And it was great to drive, but I don't know, it just hasn't quite got that specialness feel of the Aston and the other things I've got. Like I've got a Scuderia as well, and I just feel you drive it and it's super quick, and then that sort of it.
But
then you go, yeah.
If there's a but, then and it doesn't matter what the but is, does it?
No, I know.
You know?
It is a little bit fiddly to get in and out of. I think the lift is quite slow. There's a few little bits with the car, but otherwise, I mean, it was fantastic, especially at night. These exhausts with the blue flames. they've tried to add on stuff almost to get that sort of feel to it. But it is a lovely looking car.
I think.
And value for money again. This being a Spider, what are you looking? 160,000 mile, not 7 months old. That is a lot of.
Going to need a bigger deal than that, Richard. I'm going to need a bigger deal than that.
But I do like the orange and the pinstripe.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you might be able to go out with this one if it doesn't go. But again, look at the detail here. I love this. It's similar to that GT8. Again, these Gallardos coming back to these. There's a lot of value cars out there.
Yeah. It's a super car to drive as well, isn't it? Easy to go sort of close to the limit, I found. Easier to drive, which for some people, if you've got a real decent skill set, might be a bit boring. But for someone like me, you want to try and wring the neck out of what you spent your hard-earned cash on. And I think they're great compromises. I say a compromise. It's not a compromise at all, is it? Look at it.
This car here was the challenge for Dali. I still love this car. I mean, this was a race car, but they turned into a road car. A lot of them are road cars tend to race, but the chassis was all race. It was from a challenge car, and that makes it really raw. The only thing with this is it's a tricky handling car, can be on the road. They called it 360 for a reason, I think. But the tyres now, that's the other great thing, the tyres have come on so far. When these come out, they'd have a super sticky tyre that in the rain was lethal, but now you can change to a Michelin or Pirelli tyre, up-to-date compounds, and they're a lot safer.
Yeah.
This again, lovely car, Aventador. This is Aventador S. These have come right down in price again. They were sort of 350s, sort of new. You're looking at just over 200, 220, and they're probably going to keep coming down as well. So it's pretty amazing that you can get a car. Like you said, what could you do more with a car than
there ain't nothing you can do. I feel like cars have just been completed. When I stand in a showroom like this, you see some old versions, you know, some of the older Ferraris up to the, you know, what I thought was a GTO, but you just feel like, where do we go from here? I mean, I know you mentioned electric, but I suppose that's blasphemy in this.
That's why I'm buying the older cars.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to have that feel anymore. And okay, buying the McLaren's probably the newest one I've bought for a while, and it doesn't quite excite me enough.
I just don't.
It's a good car, and it's that, you know, it looks nice and it's fine. But then I go in that Aston and have a manual gearbox, and the manual gearbox.
Oh, that's different gravy.
Changes everything again.
Yeah, of course it does.
Because I can accelerate and change gear when I want. I'm in control. So, and maybe these cars are built more for the person who wants to go on the track.
Yeah, the manual gearbox, it rewards you when you have a great gear change. It punishes you as well. Yeah. Oh yeah.
To rev and rev and rev. Whereas that you're going.
Well, there was a bit too much traffic for me to really appreciate that, Richard. But yeah, but I got enough of it to see. I just look at that though, and I think there's nothing you could do to a car to make that better.
No, it's just fantastic.
You know, just take a picture of it, put it on my office wall, and I'll drool over it for the next decade. That is just a piece of machinery.
So you see why I come here sometimes for a nice coffee?
Yeah, well, I do genuinely feel like I've just gone to heaven. Yeah. If there was a fishing lake in here, I'd be right. Don't say that. Beautiful, absolutely stunning.
Thanks to Dan at VVS for letting us in today and having a walk round, and we really appreciate that. And he's got a great level of stock here. I mean, this is one of the biggest Lamborghini collections in it must be in the UK and if not Europe. I mean, you could see every Lamborghini you enjoy here.
Well, when I walked in the door, I just kept saying to myself, be cool, be cool, be cool, be cool. And I was like, yeah, it's a pretty special place with some amazing vehicles.
Okay, thanks, Dan.
So, Dean, that's the end of our first show. What do you think of the Aston?
I'm sold on it, mate.
Yeah? He wasn't into?
No. Hey, I stand corrected.
Right, okay.
I was gutted I couldn't drive the Lancia. That more than made up for it. And it's a bit of a sort of bittersweet day for me, really.
What was that?
Because I've got to drive home in my caddy now, and it's just not going to be the same.
Well, what can you say? I mean, 3 hours in the caddy or 5 minutes in the Aston?
I have car envy.
You do, I know.
I have car envy. And it's going to take me more than...
It's a special car, isn't it? Very special to drive. And the feeling you said with the steering, it's just a great car.
I get it.
Yeah.
I do. I get it. I absolutely get it. It looks spectacular, it drives spectacular, and it makes you feel spectacular. And that's... You're going to buy a car like this.
Car. Yeah, for that Sunday
I've got
car.
goosebumps just saying it. So yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed driving it.
Great.
Hopefully it ain't going to be the last time.
No. Well, I hope not. Another time we'll do it. We will. I'm sure we'll do another one. But thanks for coming along today. Really appreciated that. And the next show, hopefully Lamborghini Day. I think that's what we're going to do.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Okay. Cheers, guys. Thanks.